Do you regard black magic as being purely fictitious, or is there some truth in it?
Some truth. 100% truth. There is nothing fictitious about black magic, in any way whatever. It is a fact. It is a fact which has existed for several thousand years. I mean, when we talk about black magic, we are talking about Satanism, necromancy, alchemy, witchcraft, the worship of Satan.
Before I get into this video, I wanted to show you guys the amazing website that my partner has been working on and she's just released. Now, I've mentioned previously that I'm doing a philosophy master's, and I'm in fact doing this with my girlfriend. And the website that she has created is about defining a self-image through a philosophical lens and challenging our everyday conception of self and the way that we in fact see ourselves. As I'm sure many of you already know, there are a lot of pressures in this world, especially from social media, and this is targeted particularly at females, as they feel that they have to look and dress a certain way in order to feel accepted or happy or pretty. And essentially what this website is about is redefining how you see yourself and not attaching your ideals of beauty or happiness, for instance, to what we might see on Instagram. And I would really appreciate it if you guys just headed over there and read through some of the blog posts she has done, because it is quite fantastic and there is a lot of effort that has gone into them. And let her know any feedback, because she's currently looking to take this program into schools, because Lord knows we need more critical thinkers in this world and our schools just aren't producing them. You don't typically learn philosophy till you reach A levels, or you know, year 10 or 11 or high school if you're in the US, and that is just way too late. You know, we need this stuff to be implemented earlier on. Philosophy should be taught from, you know, primary school, in my opinion, because we need critical thinkers. They don't want critical thinkers, and that's what this program is all about. So please do head over there. If you have a daughter or a sister or a brother or anybody really that struggles with some of the problems I've mentioned, or maybe has mental health issues, then I implore you to just send them over there to read through the website. She's released a few blog posts already. There are more on the way. I think there's 2 or 3 up there at the minute. And read through them, because I can assure you they will help. I will leave the link in the description and on the screen, so you can go and check that out. And if you're a fan of Plato, you will love my girlfriend's work, because she's really into Plato and ancient philosophy. So it ties right in with a lot of the stuff I do really, but my stuff's just more on the esoteric side. But I think it's really needed, and websites like this are how we're going to help our children detach from things like Instagram and Facebook and not have them vicariously living through it, you know, like some people do. So yeah, the link will be on the screen. Please do head over there and check it out, and let's get into this video now.
Because they have the same Gematria. But the qualification I want to make here is that a lot of people who are probably more novices and don't know the entire science and art of it, just go ahead and start comparing different things that are number 70 and say, okay, this is number 70, this is number 70, and therefore we can just make a correlation. It's not the case. It goes the other way around. Because 2 things are connected, that's why their numbers are going to be connected. Not that you find 2 things of the same number, you can just stick one wall to the next, as they say. We can't just stick walls together. You have to understand firstly the significance of a name or the meaning of the word. Then you could say that relates to another word, because they have, the classic example would be the number, another 70, happens to be 70, is this expression, nichnas yayin yatsa soid. Okay? It says when wine enters, the secrets come out. As we see, someone drinks wine, they start, they like to say, a drunk, what's on their lung is on their tongue. In Yiddish, there's an expression, was ist auf dem Lung ist auf dem Zung. But it also has a positive meaning, that when you drink wine, your inner dimension is revealed. Just like the grape has concealed within it wine, so too, and when you squeeze the grape, that wine is produced. So too, we all have inner secrets, more deeper things, and when you drink wine, it brings the secret out. So the interesting thing is the Gematria of Yayin, which is wine, is what? Is 70. The Gematria of Soid, secret, is also 70. Because Yayin is Yud, Yud, Nun. Yud is 10, another 10 is Yud, Nun is 50, that's 70. Sod is Samach is 60, Vav is 6, and Dalet is 4, 70. It's different words. So the words themselves, if you saw Yayin here, wine, secret here, you wouldn't necessarily connect them. But based on this Talmudic statement, you realize they both carry the power of a secret. And therefore, they have the same number. So it didn't begin because they both have the same number. It was because they had a relationship. Therefore, it's the way the cosmic energies work. That's why they have the same number. So it's important to realize it's not the number that makes the connection, it's the connection that makes the number.
I think this is going to be one of the most useful and important videos that I've made. And honestly, I don't know why I never made one of these months ago. Now, I've been getting a lot of questions recently with the influx of new subscribers about, you know, what is the point of Gematria and why it even has any relevance to what we study. A lot of people generally tend to think that you can make numbers match any scenario and sort of force a narrative. And I honestly agree. I think some people out there are doing that with the numbers. However, just because some people do this, I think it doesn't take away from the veracity and the validity of Gematria. So what I'm going to do in this video today is show you why it's so important and the proper way to do it. I'm also going to show you some of the matches that first sort of sold me on Gematria, because I at first was a skeptic as well. I mean, I read Manly P. Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages when I was 18. I'm 27 now, so that was 9 years ago, and I read some stuff in there about codes and ciphers and Gematria. I never really took too much notice to it. It was around that time, and I was reluctant at first because, again, I agree. I agreed with you guys and the people that think this. I thought it was all it's too much. There's no way you can get some order to these numbers, and not just order, but there's no way you can make sense of these numbers. It's just too chaotic. Little did I know, I was being very, very, very silly because, you know, a few years later I was completely balls deep in Gematria. And there's some questions that I've wanted answers to for a long time, and Gematria is the only way I've ever found answers. It sort of is the final piece to the puzzle. You know, if you've been studying all this occult symbology, all this Illuminati shit, blah blah, over the years, and you still haven't come across Gematria, you are really selling yourself short, okay? So I'm going to show you some of the matches that first really sold me on this shit and made me think like, okay, yeah, this is definitely real. Now, when you look into the original practice, you'll see that the students of the Kabbalah do not just randomly match up every word with the same number, okay? The point is to identify the value of a particular number and then find its relevant counterpart that has the same numerical pattern, okay? And if you guys do follow Zach, you'll know he always mentions two examples. And the first is judge, gavel, and obey. The relevance here is pretty clear. A judge uses a gavel to maintain order that we must obey. And we see that judge, gavel are a four-way match, and obey is a two-way match, all having the same numerical value. And you cannot just accuse somebody of matching random words in this example, because all the relevant hits are clearly linked with the original word, which was judge. Another great example that Zach mentions is witch and broom. Pretty self-explanatory here. They're a four-way match in every cipher, and every witch has a broom, okay? So these are the sort of binary concepts that I'm talking about. These are what we need to be looking for when it comes to Gematria, because this is where the truth really lies. And now I get that some people may say, well, what does this matter? You know, it's just a coincidence. It bears absolutely no relevance to my life. However, I do beg to differ, because as many of you all know, maths is essentially the language of this hologram. Numbers are unbiased, and they exist independently of our concept to the truth. And we've spoken about computer programs before in the Saturn video, and how coders can use certain sets of numbers in a particular sequence to produce a desired outcome in any given system. You know, which is why we saw the green numbers falling in the Matrix movie, because it was the initiation sequence into that particular system or into that particular illusory plane. Now, when you study esoteric philosophy or any occult system, you'll find that numbers always tend to have metaphysical characteristics. In fact, Pythagoras broke down the entire universe into the numbers 1 to 10, which he calls the tetraces. Now, I say all of this to say that now, in the 21st century, as a collective, we have absolutely no fucking clue what numbers are, or their origin, or their purpose. We just use it to quantify shit, because that's how basic we are, that's how primitive we are. But there is a universality to numbers that transcends the third dimension. And that's why many people think that maths and the idea of a supreme being or a god are essentially synonymous. You know, no matter where you go on the earth, 1 is 1 and 2 is 2. That doesn't change. Let's get into this. Some of my favourite hits. Virgin and mother both have an identical numerical value, which makes perfect sense given that the Virgin Mother is such an important religious archetype that we've seen over and over and over and over again throughout history. Obviously the most famous one for us is Mary, but believe me when I tell you that that story has been told many, many, many times, okay? Virgin and mother goes together perfectly. And the same can be said for summer and winter. 2 opposing seasons have identical gematria, and this is not by accident. And speaking very generally here, summer is when we get the sunshine, and winter is when we typically get snow. Well, if you live in the UK, this just goes straight out the fucking window, because we get snow in February and fucking blazing sunshine in like November. Our weather is just completely arse backwards over here. I'm pretty sure they're controlling that shit. Generally speaking, snow in winter and sunshine in the summer. In light of that, we can see why all of these numbers have the same numerical value. And this extends to all aspects of the English language. You can find words that have the exact same numerical value as their meaning. For example, Eucharist and body and blood of Christ have the same value. I mean, what are the chances of that? It's very, very rare. Here is a more mundane example, okay? Vaccination sums to 69, whilst a cure for illness and a cure for sickness both have the value of 69. Well, what is a vaccination? It's a cure for a sickness or an illness, so the word and its definition have the same value, okay? This is gematria. Let's look at another one. Charity sums to 42. What is the point of charity? To help the poor. Well, of course, help the poor also gives us the same value as charity, both summing to that 42. Slavery sums to 107. What does it mean to be a slave? To be held against your will, which of course sums to 107. I hope you can see the pattern here, guys. Alchemy sums to 67. Traditionally, alchemy was understood as turning base metals into gold. Well, base metals into gold sums to 67 like alchemy. I mean, the list is honestly endless here, guys, and I implore you to spend some time punching in some values and just seeing what you can find and what connections you can make, because I'm not going to bore you with all of them here because I've got a lot to talk about, but I'm just showing you enough of each so you can see what gematria is really about, because it's definitely not about forcing no fucking narratives and forcing no numbers. When you're good at gematria, you don't need to force anything. It's already there. It's been built into our very language. It happens. You don't need to force it, okay? One that is definitely worth mentioning, 22 divided by 7 is the shorthand way of getting to pi, because it gives you the value of 3.14. And at the same time, if you type out 22 divided by 7 as a word, you get the value 3.14 in ordinal, which is pi without the decimal place. I mean, the chances of that are astronomical. Not only that, but we know that pi is to do with circles. Circle is the most sacred symbol, and circle is the most sacred symbol also sums to 134. As does time is represented by a circle, because we know that time is not linear, okay guys? In fact, time is not even real, just a social construct. But for ease of understanding, when we're talking about time, most people will say that it's not linear, it works in a circle. That's what the Ouroboros is about, the snake eating his tail. It's the constant cycle of life and death, around and around and around, trapped in the karmic cycles. So that alone, the fact that 22 divided by 7 gives you the value of 314 and 22 divided by 7 sums to pi, that, and we know how important pi is, that alone should tell you how serious this information is, because those types of hits and those matches are not done by accident. You can't sit there and say that that's done by mistake or coincidence. It doesn't fly. Like I said, the chances of this are absolutely fucking astronomical. And this was the one, or one of them, that really knocked me for 6. And if you didn't know, if you watch Big Bang Theory, Amy's door number is 314, which is an ode to pi, okay? They really do love this number. 314, 3.14, 314, very, very important number because of its relationship to circles. And circles are a sacred shape for so many reasons. I don't have time to talk about them all here, but usually in occult cosmology, circles represent womb and the feminine aspect, and the idea of creativity and manifestation, or the divine feminine aspect, or the divine feminine principles. That's typically what circles are associated with. Now, this line of reasoning also applies to movies, and the best example I can think of here is Star Wars. Typically, the most iconic lines from movies are encoded, and it's no different with Star Wars. For example, the title of the film sums to 209 and 97, whilst Luke, I am your father, sums to 29 and 97, which is a double match because we just dropped the 0, remember? They're the exact same. And there are a lot of different examples of this, but for now I want to move on to something a little bit more interesting. Now, I'm always talking about how the duality of this plane is reinforced through the symbology used by the powers that be. And I have previously spoken about how images like Baphomet represent this metaphysical duality. Bottom line is, duality is the third dimension, okay? Everything is vibrating. So everything and everyone has a signature wave, or a sine wave, or a wave frequency, or a wave signature. And a wave exists between two opposing poles or two opposing forces. So matter as we know it is entirely dependent on the existence of these two opposing poles, which can be understood in its most basic form as positive and negative. In light of this, we can see that duality sums to 92 and 29. The duality is even contained within the word, obviously, because they're mirrors of one another, 92 and 29. And like I've said, the way we've had duality represented to us in our subconscious is under the guise of the black and white. Remember the checkered floorboard that I spoke about, the same ones in the Masonic lodges. Remember the Marilyn Manson poster, the zebra print dresses that we see the MK slaves in. It all ties back to this idea of the binary 1 and 2, the split, the duality. The concept of black and white is, in my eyes, the archetype of duality. And we can see here that black and white both sum to 29 and 92, exactly like duality. And now let's just explore this idea a little further. Okay, so cold sums to 34 and hot sums to 43. They're opposites in nature, they're also opposites in their numerical value. So they're opposites of each other, not only on the physical plane, because hot is obviously the opposite of cold, but that's also reflected in their numerical values. This can also be seen with words like awake. As you can see here, it sums to 41, 14 and 94. Its opposite, asleep, sums to 104, which is 41, the exact same as the first two hits with awake. Not only that, but both alive and dead, which are again opposites, also connect to the word awake, and it's 94. And these examples are rife. Words like arrive and depart have mirror values, as the words commonly found together. For example, we all know the saying, sticks and stones may break my bones. Sticks and stones both have mirror values. You know, destroy sums to 83, while its opposite, create, sums to 38. And we can also see this played out in the words like condemn and praise, where the values are identical. So my point is here is that you can see there are clear numerical patterns between words that are in fact linked. The same can be said for high and low, war and peace, push and pull. Now I'm obviously not going to sit here and list every single opposite, So I suggest you look into this yourself, because the more you research it, the more you will find. There's only so many I can show you in one video. You have to see this stuff for yourself to see how deep it really goes. You also see a lot of prime relations in these words. So for example, cruel sums to 23, and the 23rd prime is 83. Lo and behold, kind sums to 83. We see this pattern repeated a lot, for example, with words like life and death and drunk and liquor. This also applies to the Bible. The Bible is probably one of the most numerically encoded books out there, and two great examples of this biblical encoding are in Genesis. For example, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, summed to 202, which is a master number. Then God said, let there be light, and there was light, also sums to 202. What else do we know about 202? Also, the ancient accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry sums to 202. Okay, so you can see here the same people that had a hand in the creation of the Bible and the encoding of these messages have signed their name right in there, if you know the hits to look for. And the same can be said for these two phrases. Let him who hath understanding count the number of the beast. And in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, which brings us back to duality. We just mentioned in that quote about the beast, and the beast represents duality and dual poles. And both of those happen to sum to the skull and bones number, which we always talk about, 223. Skull and bones, another signature. So we've got the ancient accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry and skull and bones numbers encoded into Genesis. Not only that, but so does and I proclaim my name the Lord in your presence. That also sums to the skull and bones number, which is 223. And we know that the 202 and the 223 are connected, because Genesis 3:22 reads, behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And what do you know? That exact quote sums to 202. Okay, so Genesis 3:22 numerically sums to 202. More encoding. Brings us straight back to the Scottish Rite. Now, carrying on with this theme of the Bible, Son of the Lord and Jesus Christ have the same gematria. The Son of the Lord was Jesus Christ, so that makes perfect sense, right? God's prophecy also sums to 151, and Jesus was part of God's prophecy. Not only that, but Holy Spirit sums to 151, and so does Jesus is Lord. Jesus did the great work, right? Well, what do you know? That also sums to 151. Yet again, there's more undeniable matches between words to do with Jesus, the Lord, Christ, the Holy Spirit, all coming back to 151. And I think before I wrap this up, we should definitely address the bullshit number, or the bullshit number, as I like to call it, or the number of lies. And if you're a follower of Zach, you will definitely know about this one. It's 113. So bullshit sums to 113. Now look at all the words that are tied in with this, okay? Dishonest, not true, not factual, not honest, disinfo, politics, mainstream, fiction, perjury, divorce, all sum to 113. Okay, so if you're looking for a number with a clear-cut meaning attached to it, you can't find one better than this. 113 is about being dishonest. 113 is the number of lies. And if we just put a multiplication sign in there, 113, put a times sign in, we get 11 times 3, which brings us back to the 33. And what do we already know about the 33? That's their fucking signature number. They're addicted to that shit. They fucking plaster it all over the place. Yeah? Look how perfectly that all comes together. 113 is the bullshit number. 11 times 3 is 33. 33 is one of the most heavily encoded numbers out there. Comes together very well. And just to put the nail into the coffin, illusion and vampire sums to 113. Now think about my last video. Dracula, the Dracos, the Saturn, yeah, the moon matrix, who controls the illusion, who's on the moon, who controls the lies. It all comes together, guys. It really does. You can crack everything with Gematria. That's also why the charade that was the 2020 presidential election was held on the 3rd of November. Because when you write that date out, it's 113. The presidents have a tendency to be dishonest. The fucking bear shit in the woods. So they're telling you to your face here, politics also sums to 113. So you can't tell me that I'm forcing numbers here, or that I'm making numbers try and fit a narrative. I literally just showed you all the connections with no forced agendas. I'm using their information. I didn't make the presidential election date on the 3rd of November. I didn't make it on the 113 date. They did. You cannot force a narrative when it comes to this. And guys, at this point, after all the videos that I've showed you, this should just be the icing on the cake, you know? Using their information and their headlines and their news stories to show you the patterns that they think they can hide in front of your face. And just to really hammer this shit home, coronavirus pandemic sums to 113, okay? And it was declared as a pandemic by the World Health Organization on the 11th of March, which is the only other day on the calendar that can be written on the 113. Okay? On the reverse, obviously, it'll be the 3rd of the 11th, which is still 113. So on the first date, we've got the coronavirus pandemic being announced by the World Health Organization, and on the second date, which we get the 113 number, we've got the 2020 presidential election. Like, come on, guys. Come on. The case closed on this one, okay? 113 is the number of lies. And just to throw this one in there, who is the prince of lies? Satan. So what a surprise that Satanists also sums to 113. Perfect. Now I'm just trying to cover the real basics here, guys, okay, so you know how real and important Gematria is. Pair this information that I'm giving you now with the stuff I've already spoken about in my Occult 101 series, and you just have an overwhelming amount of evidence. On top of that, look at my community post I just mentioned on the 7th of July, which is a date written 7/7, that the Haitian president was assassinated. And when you do the Gematria on that very sentence, it brings you back to the date that it was on, which was 77. And this is not the only example of this, you know. People like Zach have been proving this stuff for years and years on end. He does daily decodes of news stories where he shows you the same shit over and over again. It's just like, if you haven't been on Zach's channel and seen what he's doing, you need to go and look, because it shows you how it's used in an everyday sense. My channel sort of looks at it from a bird's eye view, and I'm trying to sort of bring a lot of things together to show you how it's been used throughout history to deceive us. But Zach's sort of showing you how it's been used every fucking day in the news. I don't really do the daily news thing, like I said, but when you see his channel and the way that he does it over there, you can't deny this stuff, you know. So like I said, Gematria Effect News, if you're looking for daily news decodes and whatnot, and sports rigging decodes, again, sports is all done by Gematria, like I said. It's just that my channel is not really about that. Right, in the next part of this video, we're going to be looking at the Gematria behind this whole coronavirus bollocks. And I've been wanting to make this video for a while, but like I always say, you know, there's so much preliminary stuff that we need to get through first. I already stated that WHO announced it, or the World Health Organization, if you don't know what I meant there, on the 113 date. So I already know that some bullshit that we're dealing with there. And Event 201 played a huge role in this. The next part will be up shortly. The next part will be up in the next week or so, and it will be primarily focused on coronavirus. Again, thank you very much to everybody that has been supporting me through the Patreon. I've been talking to you all on there, doing some great stuff on there. I've just released quite a few things actually on some stuff about Pizzagate, an entire corpus of information on Pizzagate. So if you are on my Patreon, please definitely have a look at that, because there's some stuff in there that I know for a fact you wouldn't have seen before, although, you know, it's a disclaimer warning, some of it is quite graphic. But yeah, I appreciate all of my Patreons out there. Much love to you all. And again, thank you for all the support and the comments on this channel here. You can throw any questions you've got in the comments. They'll probably get deleted, like I always say, but the ones that don't get deleted, I always respond to. If there's a comment that I haven't responded to, it's either because I've missed a notification or they didn't send me a notification. Like, I'll be messaging people back 3 months later, like, your comment slipped through the cracks. So if I haven't replied to you, it's not intentional. It's just these arseholes, you know what they're like, man, taking my videos down and all that shit. Blocking comments. So many listen, you don't understand how many great comments have been made that they block that I can't get them to unblock. It's really fucking annoying. Thank you to all the Patreons. Thank you to all my subscribers. Appreciate you all. I hope this video helped. you see some of the reasons why Gematria is so important, and we will only continue this further, and the hole will only get deeper, and we will only continue this further in the next episode, so I will catch you all soon. Also, they deleted my doorknob ritual video, if you guys didn't know, so I will be uploading that to BitChute. I've made my BitChute account. If you're on my Patreon, I've already uploaded it on there, so you should be able to download it already directly onto your computer if you're part of the Patreon. But they're definitely cracking down on my channel now, so hopefully no more infractions. Gonna be very careful with what I say. Yeah, peace.
Do you regard black magic as being purely fictitious, or is there some truth in it?
Some truth. 100% truth. There is nothing fictitious about black magic, in any way whatever. It is a fact. It is a fact which has existed for several thousand years. I mean, when we talk about black magic, we are talking about Satanism, necromancy, alchemy, witchcraft, worship of